Work. Hi
After all.
guys, hi everyone. I'm Ben from the Australian Ice campaign, and this is Let's Talk About Ice. This is a weekly talk show on Facebook that deals predominantly with ice addiction. Here you have the opportunity to listen to guest speakers share their lived experience of ice addiction in the hope that sharing can help others. The various guest speakers come from all walks of life, which shows ice addiction can happen to all types of people. Our target audience are people in active addiction or recovery, as well as family members or friends that are looking for support and advice for a loved one who is affected by ice addiction. Throughout the show, we will feature numbers and websites for those seeking further assistance, as well as answering any questions you may have that can be sent via the show's commentary. We want people to know that there is help available and that there is life after ice addiction. Okay, we've got Craig Roach
Hey,
on the show. Craig from Sydney. How are you, Craig?
hi. Good, thank you.
Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Well, I've reached out to the Australian Anti-Ice campaign maybe a month ago because I've had a pretty roller coaster ride myself with drugs over my lifetime.
Right.
And I finally decided that I wanted to share my experience with other people so that they can know that you can have a life out of addiction. That was the one thing that I never thought I would be able to do, would be to have my life back. So, so that's why I'm here.
Cool. And so you're all the way down there in Sydney.
Yeah.
What's the scene like down in Sydney?
Oh, that's the scene here. I'd say the drug problem's escalated. I'd say I don't know statistically what it would have escalated to since lockdown, but I know a lot of people and friends and clients who are suffering as a result of the lockdown and not being held accountable at work. And just carrying on the party through the week and losing their jobs, and it's really bad.
Yeah. So some people are continuing on with that party, as people do, I guess.
Yeah. Well, they don't have to front up to work or an office or do anything else. So yeah.
I guess that's a good point. I'll just quickly throw some numbers out there to anyone that needs that help. Is 1-800-NO-TO-ICE, which is 1-800-666-86-423. There's the family support number, which is 0481 844 555. The AAIC head office, which is 0756 65 6063. And also there's the new shop at Scarborough, 130 Scarborough Street, Southport. So if you're ever up that way, go in, visit and support. So, okay, with that done, let's go back a bit now, Craig. Now, let's go back to childhood. Tell us a bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up, and like where you're from?
I grew up in the Hunter Valley, just outside Cessnock, and I had a pretty supportive childhood, I guess, up until maybe the age of 12 or 13. My parents separated at that time, and I sort of felt like I was abandoned to a certain degree because Mum hit the drink pretty hard.
Right.
She's been a functioning alcoholic her whole life. So she got a new boyfriend, and I was just left to fend for myself. Well, that's how I felt at the time.
Right.
The family unit's been ripped apart, and I felt alone, I guess, and I probably felt alone from that point on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, going on into your high school years, this loneliness was with you.
Yeah.
I imagine.
High school was pretty hard as well because I didn't really I didn't really do well at school. I was bullied at school pretty badly. I was popular at school with the girls, not so much with the guys.
Right.
So yeah, I guess I had a lot of insecurities growing up, and it's probably what led me to ended up becoming an addict, because it took everything away. It took all of my insecurities away, and that was probably the main reason why I did use.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. So you've used drugs to sort of to mask certain feelings that you were having.
Yeah.
What drug did you use first? Or
I probably started smoking weed when I was a teenager, I'd say. But my brothers were always involved with drugs. They were always trying to get the next high. They were experimenting with acid trips and all that sort of stuff from a young age. So, I was around drugs and alcohol for, I thought it was normal.
Yeah. And I guess if it is around you, and like you say, siblings, they've got it there, and or mates or whatever, you think it's a normal thing, I guess.
Yeah. I guess my eldest brother had a pretty bad speed addiction for a very long time. And I know that scared the shit out of me because I saw how badly it affected him. I mean, he was highly functioning as well. But I remember finding speed around the house. He'd be hiding here and everywhere, and I'd be like throwing it away rather than taking it. I was very anti-drug because of the fact that I saw what it did to him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I left home, came out, moved to Sydney, and the gay scene in Sydney is pretty notorious for drugs, that I started playing around, with ecstasy, and I started taking speed and stuff like that. But my turning point wasn't a turning point. My downside was I was going to score some weed from a guy who was smoking ice on foil, and they used to call it shabu back then, or sabu, or whatever it was. So I went there to score some weed and ended up spending about 4 or 5 hours smoking what I thought was just the most magnificent thing I'd ever tasted in my life.
Yeah.
Because everything just went away.
Yeah.
But little did I know it was the start of a roller coaster ride that I couldn't put the brakes on for over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and when you say you smoking, that you're talking about ice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was, and he said to me, "Do you want to try it?" And I was like, "Oh, what is it?" And he said, "Sabu." And and if you would have told me it was ice or something, I probably, they didn't have ice back then anyway. Well, they did, but I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So I started smoking it, one hit on the foil, and then I wanted another one, and then, as I said, I was there for 5 hours, and left scoring as well.
Yeah. And then this person that introduced you to it, you had no reasons to think that they were giving you anything that would harm you, or you obviously trust that person enough to try that first hit.
Yeah, I don't think they were dealers trying to get a new customer by any means. I think they were just, when you're in that heightened sense of awareness, you just want to share it with people. And, I probably looked at it and showed some interest in it, and they just thought, oh, have some, not thinking it was going to destroy me.
Yeah, right. So how old were you?
Having that addictive personality as well. Like I'm sort of all in or all out. So
yeah.
I wish I wasn't, and I'm trying to find that sort of middle ground with, like being all in or all out.
Yeah.
I still haven't found it, but I'm still trying.
I'm the same, mate. Look, and I think I even shared it. If I'm going hard and I'm getting on it and playing up, I do it to my best ability.
Yeah.
If I'm doing the right thing, same thing. I like to do the right thing, and I do that to my best ability. And one of those platforms is the anti-ice campaign. And you've sought out the Australian anti-ice campaign yourself, so that helps me. Doing the right thing, and
Well, I reached out because I read Andrea's story in a magazine that I had at work.
Right.
And as soon as I read it, it just went. So that's how I contacted you guys from that point.
Yeah, and that's and it's getting the message out there. It's the same with Jose, the other guy that looks after this North Coast area. He also heard Andrea, which is on the radio show, and we've had other people come because they've seen the show and the message is getting out there. So,
yeah.
How long did you use, or had you used ice for, Craig? Or how old were you when you tried it that first time?
It was probably in total, I reckon it was probably on and off 15 years, over 3 times. So the first time I fell pretty hard and had to move back home to my mum's place, and then sort of, got myself together. Mm-hmm. Then was offered a job back in Sydney, came back to Sydney, and then, over a 6-month period just started, playing around with it again. And then the third time was when I pretty much lost everything. I sort of lost my job, lost my relationship, lost my friends, was pretty much homeless. Thank God to my best friend who gave me a room in his house, but I lost everything. And
so it got progressively worse each time you went back to it.
Yeah, it got worse each time. I just pushed it a little bit too far, thinking I'd be okay. Yep. And then, it escalated from starting on Friday night, finishing on Monday night, going back to work on Wednesday. So I'd sleep all day Tuesday, go back to work Wednesday. So I had that pattern going for quite a while. And then eventually it just escalated to pretty much every day. Didn't show up for work. And then,
And that's it's interesting you say that. I think that's what, all us ice users we experience. It'll start off, recreation or whatever, a weekend thing, and then it becomes a gradual daily occurrence. And, in the beginning, I guess you could say we're functioning, going to work, but after a while, it'll take control of your life, won't it? And sorry.
Oh, sorry. What you said, to take control of your life. It doesn't take control of your life. It takes control of your whole body. It's like it's they call it the devil's drug for a reason,
Yeah, exactly right. And it gets to that point where all you're worried about is that next hit. Everything else I can get through the day, and everything else is I can overcome. It's just a matter of getting that hit, or then that fix. So, and you said how long? Sorry, you had those 3 stints, but how long over that period of? I mean, how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 48. I'm 48 next week.
And so basically, that was around your 20s that you started.
Yeah. How long? Oh, I'd say maybe. I've been sober for 11 years now, so probably that long. 15. Oh, I can't even do the math on it, to be honest. But I've been sober for over 11 years now, and I had 3 stints over probably. So 15 years, I'd say.
And I guess 11 years is quite good for a nice addict to be able to say that. It's an amazing thing. But I have no doubt that there's people watching this that are interested in what worked for you to be able to stay sober for 11 years.
Well, I guess after the last time I used, I felt I felt like I was dying inside. I've never had a come down like it, and I decided that I am going to live or I'm going to die. So I had to make the decision. And I mean, it wasn't easy. I'm not going to sit here and say to you it was easy by any means, especially in the gay scene in Sydney, where you're constantly surrounded by people taking drugs. I mean, I can go to a party now and watch people use drugs. I've been to parties and watched people use ice as well. It didn't bother me or didn't trigger anything inside of me. I knew at the time that I would go home and sleep, and these guys would be up for 3 or 4 days chasing the next hit. So I went home and I slept really well because I knew that I would never use again. Yeah. I know if there's a gun on the table and a pipe on the table, I'd pick the gun straight up. I wouldn't even think about it because I've come too far.
Yeah.
and I also feel like I've been given a second chance as well.
Yeah.
You know, I never thought I'd have a great job again. I never thought I'd have relationships. I never thought I'd have such great friendships with friends and family again. You know, I don't take it for granted at all.
Yeah. I think, that the message there is to be grateful for what you have now, because, like you said, it's a lot. It's very hard to get to that point, but once being an ice addict, and you know, it's like you say. I mean, I've got 2.5 years up clean, and the way I look at it is, you know, I put in the hard work, because the initial 6 months was difficult for me, and even, you know, after that, there's moments, because I was struggling to overcome the whole lifestyle that surrounded around ice addiction. But you know, you owe it to yourself. If you've come that far, you sort of, you know, it'd be sad to look back and throw it all away, because you know.
I guess in the midst of being an addict, you don't see the possibility that you are going to have relationships with people again. You don't feel like you're ever going to be trusted to have a job, or you're going to be trusted to look after someone's house, or, you know, those things. Everything just seems like it's too hard, because, you know, you have to just chip away at it, you know, get a job, you know, start to reconnect with people, start to prove to people that, you know, that you are sober and you are making an effort to be a better person. And, you know, people around me have been very supportive. There was a lot of people that weren't supportive at all. You know, the people who I'd party with, or people who I thought were my friends, you know, and that was a hard thing for me to deal with as well. Because, you know, I thought I had so many friends, and then once the party's over, no one wants to know you. The fun Craig's gone.
Yeah. It's interesting, you know, people that do genuinely have your best interests, they'll be happy to see that you're doing well, and you're planning yourself up, and, you know, you want to be able to honor those friendships, those loyalties, by doing the right thing.
Yeah. My turning point was exercise. I decided that I wanted to get fit, so that pretty much is the reason why I'm still sober today, I guess, because I threw myself into exercise, you know, started getting fit, and that in itself has just kept me on track.
Same. The gym, it really helped me. To a point where I think we mentioned it earlier, that, you know, we don't do things in halves. We go 100% into one thing. And I think that's the addict sort of mentality. Because I study as well. I'm full-time study, so I had to sort of not go so hard at the gym, and because I was going too hard, and then I'd feel all run down the next day. So, but that's just that addict mentality. But I think it's, you know, if you're putting your all your energy into something positive, like, you know, exercise and that sort of thing, that's a good thing. Wear yourself out like that, and, you know, it's better than you know, doing what we did to ourselves. And in saying that, I want to step back, and I want to ask you, what did using look like for Craig Roach? Can you describe to us, you know, the lifestyles, and, you know, the relationship, and you know, the abuse that you put through to your body, and that sort of thing?
What did it look like for me? I guess it was just one big party. I felt like I was a bloody rock star. You know, I'd start smoking, and, you know, by the second day I felt better. The third day I felt even better. I honestly thought I was just a rock star living out, you know, a fantasy of being a rock star, but I was quite the opposite. I don't know what rock star I was, but
yeah, right. And what about relationships? How did they fare in your
well, I think my immediate family, especially my mother, I mean, she knew about the first stint. She didn't know about the second and third one as badly as it was, because I hid it from her. You tend to sort of isolate yourself from people who are going to judge you, and surround yourself with more people who are going to support you when you're using drugs, you know. So you sort of tend to push the people away that are going to question what you're up to. And I'd just lie to people, you know. I'd just lie.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just I'm you know, I was sleeping, but you know, I was awake, or I was, you know, at a sex club. I don't know.
Yeah.
Drugs
Yeah.
and sex go hand in hand, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, yeah, it's funny, you know, and if lying's something you don't like doing, because you know some people they're habitual liars, but if it's something that you know you don't like to do, and yet you're doing it because of your ice addiction, it starts chipping away at your soul, I guess. You know, it starts to, you know, it starts to take away from who you are and change you as a person, I guess. You know, you're telling little lies here and there, and then you know after a while you're just telling lies, and people,
and you start to believe your lies as well. That's
that's
one
right.
thing that's what my experience. You know, you'll bullshit or lie, you know, to get your own way, and then you'll believe what you've said. But that's
Yeah.
just the drugs, you know.
Yeah. What about work? So you're a hairdresser, I understand.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
the days in your addiction, how did that affect your work? Did you
Well,
lose? You couldn't go.
I lost some fantastic opportunities with salons over the years. I worked at some pretty amazing, you know, probably the most upmarket salons in Sydney, and you know, given great opportunities to work in these places, and just pissed it up the wall because of my addiction, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, so I lost some great jobs. I lost, you know, the love of my life as well, which I'd never get back. Um, Friendships, but yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's same with me, relationships, work. But you know, I don't have to. I can hold down work. I can study full time. I can do these things now, and that you know, I guess that's the message we want people to know, that we're able to,
Yeah.
you know, go from that once person that was irresponsible, to being able to hold down jobs. You
Yeah.
know, and that's not possible without being sober of mind,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
My boss that I'm with now, he actually passed away about 18 months ago from cancer. So it's pretty sad. But I'd worked with him on and off for 20 years, and I don't think anybody was more proud of me than him that I got sober. And you know, he gave me an opportunity to go back and work for him after he saw, you know, how I got myself together. So I
yeah,
mean, that in itself, you know, having a second chance, you know, I mean, it's essential for people who have been through addiction, because I mean, everyone deserves a second chance, don't they?
yeah, I believe so as well. And you don't ever want to sort of wreck that second chance and or be ungrateful for it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you can never take it for granted either.
yeah, exactly right. Now we're going to go into a personal area. Your emotions during ice addiction. What did you experience? You know, some of the lows, and that sort of thing.
Oh, the lows. God, there's so many to mention. The lows. Probably just at the end of it all, just feeling completely and utterly, your soul's been raped out of your body. You know, not feeling dead, feeling absolutely like you have no energy to even get out of bed, you know. And
Yeah,
that's that feeling of that dread, you know, when you wake up in the morning and you know you have to get up and go to work, and you just think, how can I do it? How am I going to do it? I haven't slept for 4 days now. I've got to get up and stand in
yeah,
front of a mirror and service clients. I mean,
yeah. Did so? What about psychosis and that sort of thing? Did you ever experience that those sort of
I
you know?
I think I only ever experienced it once, where I was sort of having conversations with people that weren't there, and
Yeah,
that sort of freaked. Yeah, and I believed that they were there. That was quite weird. And then I'd sort of pass out and come back to and be looking around the house for these people that weren't there. That was
yeah,
the only experience I had with psychosis. Believe it or not, out of all of the experiences I had, I know other people who suffered really badly with it, but I think my mind was quite strong. Like I'm
Yeah.
a bit of a control freak with my thoughts, and I don't like drugs, for example, that take me out of my head. I always liked to know exactly where I was, what I was doing.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was the same. I like to have some form of control, because there are drugs out there that, even though I have had them, that I was always careful. If I was in like a new surroundings,
Yes.
I'd be careful not to try certain drugs because, if you lose it and you're not around people you can trust, it's quite
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
And I've seen blokes, flip out, they're on trips, and Datura, and like I've had some hard trips before, but I was in the company of people that I could trust, and
Yeah.
and I think also what helped me at times when I, because you get the psychosis from being awake on days on end. It's
Yeah.
your body's, it's not getting any sleep for like 4, 5, 6 days. I mean, and if you do that, you try and do that just when you're sober. You can't do it. You can't.
No,
You'd be
no
lucky.
way.
You'd be lucky to go longer than 2 days.
Yeah.
So, I think what helped me through those situations is you remind yourself, this isn't how I normally function. I'm on drugs and I've been awake for like 4 or 5 days. So that's how I sort of was able to overcome that. But I see some people and they freak out, and I wasn't the best friend in the world. Sometimes I just let them go. If I didn't care much for them, I just let them. You sort it out yourself.
Yeah, I think that depends on the mental state of the person, like in general, how they're going to be affected by it. Like I know my experience with taking acid, the best night of my life was on acid, and the worst night of my life was on acid, depending on my mental state prior to taking it. But I guess everyone's different how it affects them.
Yeah, exactly. What about have you ever had any has it affected you with the law at all? Have you ever had police charges or anything like that, or been caught with?
Yeah, I had an incident where I was going to kill myself, and I checked myself into St. Vincent's, and I was not I didn't feel at the time that they were taking it seriously. So I basically just walked out, and then the police came to my house and took me back into St. Vincent's, where I was locked up basically for, I think, maybe 36 hours. They kept me there.
Right.
Because I went in saying I was going to kill myself, and then I wasn't being treated the way that I expected them to take it as seriously as I thought. So I just decided I wanted to go home and sleep. But they had other plans.
Yeah, right. So, what triggered that suicidal episode? Was it a bout of psychosis, or were you in a deep sort of a rock bottom depression?
Rock bottom. That was the week I lost my job, and so I pretty much partied for that whole week, and got to the end of the week, and then realized what I'd done, and just had a complete. I'd say I had a nervous breakdown. I don't think I've ever had a breakdown quite like it, but I had a complete breakdown where I just cried. I just was like howling. I've never cried like that before in my life.
Yeah,
and
right.
I was dating somebody who he was there with me at the time, and I basically told him to go. And then as soon as he left, I called him and said, "Look, I'm going to kill myself. I need to go. Either I need to go to the hospital, or I'm going to kill myself." So he came back and took me to the hospital, and then I checked myself out, and then they come and collected me and put me in the padded room. Which,
right.
At the time I felt secure. I felt, like I was being looked after. That wasn't the end of my drug use by any means, but it certainly was a wake-up call.
So
one I'll never forget being arrested in front of, you know, everyone in my neighborhood where I live and being taken out and put in the back of the wagon in front of everyone. I mean, that was pretty much a low point. Probably one of the lowest points for sure.
Yeah, right. And I guess that, you know, like that was a good outcome really to bring those authorities to come and get you, because, you know, I don't know if I've experienced a nervous breakdown, but I have been in some dark places where I guess I couldn't get up and face the world, you know, like, you know, it's just, you think, you know, is this all there is to life? And does it, you know, can it get any better, or is this just the way life is? And for me, it felt like I was in a deep hole, and I'm just trying to claw my way out, but I just can't get out. It's just, you know, just a feeling of hopelessness.
I think a nervous breakdown. I think at the end of such the roller coaster ride ends, and at the end of it, you're sitting there and you just complete meltdown. What have I done? I've lost my job.
Yeah,
you know, I'm 3 months behind in rent now because my stupid landlord let me get 3 months behind in rent. You know, I previously got dug out of a friend bailed me out from being behind rent before with the promise that I would not let it happen again, and then I get 3 months behind again. So the realization at the end of it that you're going to be homeless, you have no job, all of your friends don't really give a shit unless they're using drugs. You know, you have friends, and then you have the drug friends.
Yeah,
you know, and they don't cross over.
Yeah, exactly.
So at the end of it, I just have a meltdown to think that, you know, I've lost my house, I've lost my job, I'm going to be homeless, and that's it. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like,
yeah,
there's rock bottom, and then there's under the rock bottom, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, people, they talk about rock bottom's not until you hit actual rock bottom.
And, you know, I'll say this, and this is a really important thing. I don't think people realize that most ice users are not going to ever stop using drugs until they hit rock bottom. And, you know, they can keep playing around with it. They'll keep, you know, partying with it, think they don't have a problem. They only use it on the weekends. It escalates. You have to hit rock bottom in order for you to come to the other side. I mean, it's only 5% of people who get off ice, or 2-3%. I've been told recently.
Yeah.
You know, it's the statistics are just out of control. That the fact that so many people just lose their lives over it. And, you know, the reason me coming on the show tonight was I want to tell people that you can have a life out of drug addiction. You can get your life back. And I never thought I'd be sitting here having conversation, talking with you about my experience with drugs and putting it out there. But, you know, I'm so proud of myself that I'm one of the lucky ones that managed to get sober, you know, and hitting rock bottom was probably the best thing for me. But I just wish it didn't take me 15 years to get there.
Yeah. And I agree, you know, some people aren't going to come until they do hit that rock bottom. No. But, you know, being an ice addict, so to be able to say you've got clean time up, you know, just one day, that's a big achievement for any ice addict, because it's a daily occurrence, you know, where you need that drug. You know, you're an ice addict. So, you know, like you say,
there's an ice addict. There's an ice addict and there's a functioning ice addict. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's so many variations of people who use the drug. An ice addict is an ice addict. If you use it 2 days a week, you know, to party on the weekends, every weekend, you're an addict. There's no difference. You use ice, you're an addict. I don't care what anyone says. It's
Well, it's a drug that you know, you may start off just dabbling in it, but it's designed to hook you in. You know, it's got such a high an addictive nature to it. It's the most addictive thing known to man, ice. So, you know, the way it's designed, you may start off dabbling in it, but, you know, it's going to turn into a daily thing, and then, you know, there's going to be times where, you know, things come up in life. You know, you might lose a loved one, you might go through a breakup or whatever, and you're going to be running back to that drug, and that's when it starts becoming the problem. You know, when you can't function normally without that drug, and it'll take everything. It'll take over. It'll take over your relationships. It'll, you know, your finances. You know, you work. You won't be able to go to work because, you know, you've been awake for 4 or 5 days. You know, and you're in no condition to go to work. So, you know, people, and it's like you say, it's very true. A person's got to want to be able to. They've got to want to stop. You can present them with all the opportunities in the world. You can put them in, you know, a multi-million-dollar rehab. But if they're not going to want to stop, it's not going to happen. But
no way.
This is a platform where we offer that help, and we do have the numbers up on screen at the moment, and I'll quickly go through them again. So, if you do have a loved one out there, guys, and you know they're looking to get that help, or you yourself, you may have a problem with ice addiction, call these numbers. We can offer help. There's counselling, and there's avenues out there that you can look into and get that advice and get that help. So there's the 1-800 No to Ice, which is 1-800 668 423. There's the family support number, which is 0481 844 555. There's the AAIC head office, which is 0756 65 60 and 63. So, look, guys, seek that help if you need it. If you have a loved one that needs help, feel free to contact these numbers, because as Craig said, you know, there's very low % of people that do get over ice addiction. However, if you put in the work and you seek the right avenues, you can overcome it. And you know, it's a miracle. You know, for me myself, like I know. With my ice addiction, I didn't think I'd ever be able to overcome it. I didn't think, you know, there'd be a time where I could say I've got 2.5 years clean time up. And, you know, Craig, yourself, you know, you've got 11 years up. So, you know, it is possible. And that's the message we're trying to get out there. Isn't that right, Craig?
Yeah, I think the thing is, what I'd like to share with people who are experiencing it or going through it is, you just have to chip away at it. You know, you have to work out, okay, I'm going to stop. What's going to make me feel better? What's going to make me feel like I have a purpose again? So, you know, obviously you need a routine, you need a job, you need money, you know, you need, you know, to get your happy hormones again. So, you know, exercise, I've heard people say to me over the years, you know, it beats depression and anxiety. If I didn't exercise, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you today. What worked for me, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel happier. So you got to do what makes you feel better, you know. And it's a slow process. You're not gonna wake up tomorrow and just be like, wow, my life's back. You know, you have to slowly win people's trust back. You know, they'll see within you, once you start to get better, that you're doing better. You know, the people who love and support you will help you get there. The people who don't, you know, all of your drug friends, they have to go. You know, anyone who's had association with drugs, they have to go. Cut them off. You know, it's done.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I had to move away from where I was using, and like I say, there was one person that I kept in contact with, and I used with him, but he genuinely cared about me, you know, overcoming ice addiction, and that friend of mine, his name's Sean Cooper. He actually died last week. So, you know, hi to the family if they're watching. And you know, but Sean was a friend of mine, and you know, he was happy for me. And you know, they're the kind of people you want in your life that are genuinely going to be happy that you're doing better for yourself and that you're trying to overcome this affliction. But like I said, I had to move away. I had to move town. I had to come down I was up in Toowoomba, That's where I was using, and I had to come down to Coffs Harbour. I had to humble myself and come back to my mother's house. But that's the truth. That helped me, as well as the exercise, like you said, but also being part of, forums like this. That helps me. There's a power in sharing. There's a power in sharing. I don't know how it works exactly, but you can testify that this, Craig, being able to share your story.
Well, Ben, I've also lost a lot of friends to it as well, from suicide, and I've lost count how many people I know have died from it in the last 10 years. We only had one of our clients last week just die from it as well. But I mean, you'll stop using drugs when you're ready to stop using drugs. I can't sit here and say, I'm sober 11 years. My journey is going to be completely different from everybody else's. I just by some chance had enough strength inside of myself to support myself. I got off drugs because I wanted to get off drugs. No one could tell me to stop using drugs. People tell me to stop using drugs, I'd go score straight away. Yeah. Because that's just how I operate. I can't sit here and tell your viewers to stop using drugs. They have to be ready to stop using drugs. Yeah. On that note, let's focus. So what made you turn away from addiction? I wanted to live. I didn't want to disappoint my mother more than anything. The person I care about the most in the world, she went through a lot. I have two brothers and they've both been addicts. My middle brother's been in and out of jail. He's, pretty much his whole life. He's still battling with his addictions now. I didn't want to be like my brothers. I've always said I'm not like my brothers, but my mum's been through hell and back with her 3 kids, with addictions. I mean, any wonder she's been drinking her whole life as well. Yeah. Yeah, I'm very similar. It was more my uncles. They died quite young. There's 2 of them that died quite young in our family. One was 53 and the other was 56. Now that was from one of them was drug use, and I think that it was hepatitis C he caught, and then he didn't treat that, and then he drank, and then another uncle he drank, and it catches up with you. And I think alcohol can, I know from my experience, if I was trying not to use that weekend, if I would drink alcohol, then everything would go out the window. After I've had 4 or 5 beers, I'd be like, going to the dealer's house. I remember walking and my body's being pulled away. And then, I'm hitting the buzzer at the dealer's place, and my finger didn't want to hit I didn't want to actually hit the button, but I was being, torn in 2 directions. So I think, alcohol, well, for me personally, it just, everything went out the window after I had a few drinks. So I had to stop drinking. I had to stop doing everything. I also smoked for 20 years, and I still think quitting cigarettes was harder than quitting anything else. That's just me. I agree. Cigarettes was hard for me to give up, but I gave it all up at the same time. I gave up the ice addiction, and then it took me a few months after to stop drinking completely, because it was the same scenario. Few drinks, and then I'm starting to look to get on. And I'm actually lucky that I wasn't around people that use down here, because it's so easy that, someone says, we should go and get a bag, and okay, and after a few drinks, and that's how it happens, and next thing you know, you're back into that addiction of that cycle of addiction once again. So I agree. If you are trying to sort of overcome your ice addiction, you need to probably keep away from the drink as well. And it's a hard one, because drinking's available to everyone. And it's legal. And it's socially acceptable to be an alcoholic these days as well. Have a beer. It's like, well, I'm not drinking, but I actually said to somebody at a party, when because I wasn't drinking for almost a year, and I'll have a social drink. And he said, have a beer. And I was like, no, I don't want one. And then I said to him, I was in AA, but I wasn't, just so he'd leave me alone. And he said, go on, have a beer. I'm like, you idiot. Like, seriously.
Yeah, and exactly right. I want to mention to our viewers that we have a buddy system with the AAIC as well. And what that looks like is one of the AAIC members will come alongside the person in addiction, and they can rely on them for support. They'll take them along to some NA programs or meetings, I believe, and then they'll show them what the recovery scene looks like. So that's part of the AAIC, that the buddy system. Okay, so Craig, what did you lose because of this drug? I mean, we've already touched on it. What have you lost because of it in the past, in regards to like monetary values or relationships or work and whatnot?
I guess the answer to that would be, what didn't I lose? You know, like I probably, I hate to imagine how much money I spent. Probably a couple of $100,000.
Yeah,
easy.
right.
Easy, a couple of $100,000. Friendships, you know, relationships. I guess I lost part of myself, which I can now honestly say I have back. I guess I'm in the best place I've ever been emotionally. And, you know, I've worked very hard for that, but what have I lost? What haven't I lost? That's my answer. Yeah,
it's a difficult one because it's hard to, you know, we've probably forgotten certain things over the years that, you know, that we have lost, that didn't need to be that way. What do you think people that have never been in ice addiction wouldn't understand about this drug?
How deadly it is. It's so strong that you don't even think you've got a problem. You know, whenever you smoke it, everything goes away. You don't have a care in the world. And I guess that's why I used it for as long as I did, because it just took everything away, you know, but worries, anxiety, not feeling good enough, not feeling like I fit in, you know, feeling empowered when I would use it. You know, probably people who suffer from insecurities and depression, or they have, you know, issues like I have, childhood issues, are probably the people who would end up addicted to ice. That's my, I mean, I'm no expert, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend I am an expert, but I'm just,
There's a question we just received from Michelle, and it says, what about your health? Is there anything that can't be repaired? I guess for myself, Michelle, I did suffer from depression after I stopped using, and I guess I did need to go and see the doctor about that, and I was prescribed an antidepressant. Physically, nothing too bad, and me and Craig spoke about this earlier. You know, we did keep some degree of you know, personal hygiene, and, you know, didn't neglect ourselves as bad as some people do. So, you know, your teeth and that sort of thing. But for me, it was, you know, my mental health that suffered, and I had to go and seek some help. Craig, is there any long-term?
Pretty much the same for me as well. More mentally, nothing physically, but more mentally. I mean, I think I'd always suffered from depression from a young age. So I manage it now with exercise. I used to take antidepressants I've taken them maybe 3 times, but I find I'm better without them. I find as long as I exercise and get some endorphins and stuff like that, I can usually, you know, it's week to week with depression with me, you know. I have bad days, I have good days, but I mean, that's, yeah, I have more good days than bad days.
I'm the same, but I think my health in my days of addiction wasn't good. You know, like when I stopped using, I was 70 kilos. Now I'm 100 and a bit over 100 kilos now. I'm probably a bit too big. I could lose a couple of kilos, but for an ex-ice addict to say that, that's a good thing because, yeah, I was 70 kilos ringing wet, and
I was 50. I got to 50.
Yeah, right.
And
you know,
I'm yeah.
What are you sitting at now?
79.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a 30. 30. That's nearly half your. Well, a quarter of your weight. You know what I mean? And we're sitting at healthy weights now. So, yeah. Craig, what's the most important lesson you've learnt in life so far?
The only person you can rely on is yourself. So I've come to the realization over that period of time, you know, you have people who say they're there to support you, but the only person you can truly rely on is yourself.
Yep.
That's my experience.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting question because, I mean, we're only halfway through our lives, I guess. You know, we may learn more, and we will learn more as we go. So, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years, Craig?
5 to 10 years, I hope to be living on a couple of acres somewhere. Hopefully in love, having heaps of animals. That's my dream. Yeah.
And you're a member down in Sydney. You're going to start looking to grow the AAIC down in Sydney.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Well, that's the plan. We're going to get some things in place, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, as far as helping some people down here that need some help. So if anybody wants to reach out, or if anybody wants to talk personally to me, I'm more than happy to. You can pass my details on to people if they want to talk about my experience, and hopefully to do some mentoring with some people who are looking to get clean as well. Yeah, and also education in schools, and you know, that sort of thing. I'm really looking forward to getting involved.
Yeah, we done a show in Grafton, me and Jose, the other bloke that looks after this area, and you know, we went in and we spoke to the kids, year 11 and 12, and you know, shared our experience. We're able to educate them what ice is, what ice addiction looks like, what's actually in the drug, how the drug affects the body, and the repercussions of ice addiction. So, and that's what you'll be looking at doing down your way, I imagine.
Yes, for sure. But I think it's ongoing. I think that the government needs to do a little bit more work on educating. You know, they need to do like a national ad campaign and things like that, because I was taught stuff at school that scared the crap out of me, but I still ended up smoking cigarettes, or I still ended up using drugs. So yeah, I think it has to be like a campaign that goes global so people are aware of it. And another thing, you know, people vaping now, that scares the shit out of me, because these young kids are vaping. And I mean, I see vaping pretty much as the same as smoking ice. You know, it's you know, it pretty much has the same, not the same effect, but you know, if kids are going to be smoking vapes, then they're more inclined to smoke an ice pipe as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad point. You know, it's sort of, in a sense, it's grooming them, isn't it, for that?
Yeah.
And I know that you can rig those vape machines up to put ice in, and you can use them to smoke it out of. But I think that even, you know, the whole idea behind methamphetamine being manufactured to be able to be smoked is to make it more user friendly. You know, people sitting around having a pipe is a lot more acceptable than sitting around having a shot or whatever. You know what I mean? So they've gone from, you know, it's like passing around the joint, So because when we first started, like, it was goey, wasn't it? The ice didn't come until later on down the track.
Or it was base. I think it was called base back in the day before it became ice.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But you never smoked it. You either dropped it or snorted or injected,
Yeah.
But now they're quite smart, the people that manufacture it, and they've made it a bit more acceptable. And people that that'll try it for the first time, go on, have a go at that and see. It won't hurt you. It's just like having a draw on a smoke or something. But
I think in the early stages when I first started using it, I thought it was just this amazing drug, and I wanted to share it with people. And have you tried this? And I hate to say that I probably am responsible for quite a few people becoming addicts as well, and that's probably a very low point as well for me to deal with. I ran into somebody a couple of years ago at Fair Day, Mardi Gras Fair Day, and he introduced me to his partner as, this is the reason that I smoke ice, was because of me. And I walked away from that feeling pretty shit about myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't force him to do it, but I certainly was the one who instigated that. Here, try this. Let me ruin your life.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've experienced the same emotions, but hopefully, Craig, you're going to be responsible for some people getting themselves sorted. So you're at the other end of the spectrum now.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's great. And we're also towards the other end of the show, and I'm going to throw one last question out to you, and then we're going to wrap it up. And
all right, cool.
So what's the last thing you would like to say to the audience about this drug ice?
I think I've said before, and I'll say it again, you can have a life out of drug addiction. You can have the best life you ever dreamed of. It's up to you. How badly do you want your life back? How badly do you want to go to sleep at night and wake up feeling refreshed? Go to work and feel like you've done a great job. Engage in friendships and family, and just know in yourself that you're not addicted to this drug anymore. I never thought that I would be on this platform talking to anyone saying I'm 11 years sober. Everything I do, I get addicted to: food, alcohol, cigarettes, weed. I either do it or I don't.
Yeah.
I know some people can have a little bit or whatever, but you can have your life. It's such a, I hate saying blessing, but to have a life is just amazing, and to have a life that you're not a slave to this fucking evil drug. It's just the best feeling. It really is.
That's exactly.
And being in Sydney and being surrounded by these people, and I've got quite a few clients. 2 of them recently have reached out to me asking me for help because of their addiction, and I just said to them both, I said, when you're ready to quit smoking ice, I'm here for you. But if you're going to leave here today or tonight and you're going to go smoke it, I'm not here for you, because you have to be ready. When you're ready, you'll know you're ready. No one can tell you to quit drugs. I'm not here to tell you to quit drugs. I'm just telling you my experience to hope that somebody else can see that you can have a great life without drugs. That's a
great message there, Craig. We really appreciate you've come on here. You've spoken openly and honestly, and that's all we can do. We share our experiences because we genuinely want to help people. We don't get anything out of it, but except to know that we've shared our story, and hopefully someone out there can, know that they can overcome this terrible affliction, because again, we're both testimonies to that. So, like I said, thank you very much for your time, Craig. We're going to keep in contact. You're the head man down in Sydney, so we're going to probably do a follow-up.
If anybody needs, let's pass on my details. I'm more than happy to have a chat with anybody.
Definitely. And it'll be on Facebook. It's been a great show. We've covered a lot of ground. You've done well, and we really appreciate you openly and honestly spoke today. So Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you so
Craig.
much, Ben. Thank you so much. Great.
Thank you, man. To
right.
everyone out
Bye.
there, the numbers are up on your screen, and if you need that help, seek that help. Once again, thanks, Craig, and we'll see you
worries.
outside. See you, mate.
Thank you. Bye.